In this videocast, we're going to look at one of the major challenges that are facing unions in the 21st century. There are five major challenges facing unions today: non-traditional workforces, multi-generational workplaces, invisible disabilities, technology, and right-to-work legislation. If your union is ready to make the transition to a modern one of the 21st century, then you need to ensure that you have strategies in place to move you forward on each of these. Let's take a closer look at what is commonly referred to as the non-traditional workforce. First, let's cover a few statistics to lay the foundation for a broader discussion in this area. Canada is the fastest growing of the G8 countries. Having said that, we're also the smallest of the G8 countries, with a population of about 34 million people. In fact, the Yukon has had the highest rate of population growth since 2006. In terms of planning, it's important, therefore, that unions are aware of these kinds of statistics and are actively pursuing organizing opportunities in high-growth areas, markets, and industries. As a country, we've seen significant population growth over the past 50 years. In fact, our population has almost doubled in that time. Not surprisingly, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver account for 35% of the total population. So while pursuing opportunities in Canada's north and in other geographical areas of the country, it's important to be mindful of the fact that a large chunk of the country's population lives in these three centers. That may mean focusing more attention on helping employers to grow local workforces where they're needed, while at the same time creating opportunities for members in these areas to invest in their continuous learning and growth so that they can continue to access work opportunities. Canada's population growth rate is very low and has been for more than a decade, less than 1% in fact. Put into simple terms, it means that almost as many Canadians are dying as being born within the country. The net growth is less than 1%. In the 50s, the average woman had almost 4 children. Nowadays, families tend to be much smaller, with most couples having 1 or 2 children. These lower birth rates, coupled with an aging population, mean that there are more people retiring from workplaces than there are entering. And that gap creates both a challenge and an opportunity. Across the country, our economic changes are translating into changes across industries. There are what we refer to as sunrise, sunset, and stable industries. Sunrise industries are a terrific source of economic growth and new work opportunities. These are emerging industries that are growing and in many cases are brand new. Given the birth rates of the past decade, coupled with the retirement rates and the impact of the sunrise industries, we can end up with labor shortages or gaps, and these gaps need to be filled somehow. 3 sources of closing these gaps for employers is to engage non-traditional workforces, of which there are 3 groups in Canada: women, internationally trained workers, and Aboriginal workers. Let's start with internationally trained workers. There are many highly skilled, well-educated people from around the world who are looking to emigrate from their country of origin. Canada is just one of the choices that they have available to them, and we're in competition with other industrialized nations to attract this talent in order to help us with our labor shortages. In 1953, my grandfather was able to bring his family to Canada from Scotland. He was a master electrician, and this was his ticket to a new country. In the 50s and 60s, most immigrants came from Europe. Today, Asia is the greatest source of foreign-trained workers. One of our big challenges as unions is not just how to attract foreign-trained workers to our organization, but, more importantly, how to help them integrate into our workplaces. Another group that is considered a non-traditional workforce is women. Women make up 48% of Canada's workforce and just over half of the population, and yet they are underrepresented in traditionally male-dominated industries. Aboriginal workers are the third type of non-traditional workforce. Although the overall population growth in Canada is very low, within that, the Aboriginal population is the fastest growing subgroup or cohort. Despite that, they are also underrepresented in the labor force as a result of historically low levels of formal education and too few opportunities to gain work experience. How can you contribute to the successful integration of the more than 600,000 Aboriginal youth who will enter the Canadian labor market between now and 2026? To answer this question and many more, let's plan to do coffee, either at your favorite local coffee shop or virtually. Let's discover together how you can contribute to moving your union forward with the modern times in which we are living.